Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Romance Class podcast. Romance Class is a community of Filipino authors of romance in English. Um, and since 2013, our community has helped over 80 authors publish over 100 books. We also have a podcast, which is what you're watching or listening to right now. And it has been a space to explore more of what we can do with the books and what we can discuss with the authors. This podcast is produced by Tanya Arpa and Mina V. Esguerra. Before we start, we would like to remind you to subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Head over to kilig.pub/YouTube, hit the subscribe button, and also click on the bell to be notified when a new video is coming up. My name is Mina V. Esguerra, and I'm hosting the episode today. This episode is about academics or teachers writing and reading romance. Some of you may not know this, even if you've been following our writing community for a while, but a number of romance class authors are also currently teachers. We've invited some of them to our panel today to ask them what they think about academics as characters in romance, or how their experience as teachers helps, if at all, in writing romance, and a few other things we want to know. Turn the tables on them and ask your questions in the chat. Let's welcome to our episode Ines Bautista-Yao, CP Santi, JE Tria, and Celestine Trinidad. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Okay,
Hey guys.
I will ask
Hello.
everybody to introduce themselves one by one and tell us a little bit about what they teach, and if they're willing to share where they teach it, if they're willing to share. but
If.
but before that, I would like to disclose that I also am a former teacher. I was adjunct faculty at a college in BGC for 1 year, teaching business communication for 2 semesters. But that was like about 10 years ago. And I haven't gone back since. So I will just be host today, and I will let our esteemed academics talk about their experience teaching while writing and reading romance. Let's start with Ines.
Hi. Okay. I'm Ines Bautista-Yao. I teach English Lit and I guess English writing na rin. Parang it goes hand in hand, right? I used to teach high school and then now I teach in the university level. So I also teach freshmen and higher levels. Um, I won't na say where I teach, but if you follow me, you'll know. You'll know where. And but it works. It goes hand in hand because because I mostly write YA, so I get inspiration. It's just being immersed, I guess, with that age. That's why it's easy to get inspiration for teaching. I mean, for writing YA. That's it.
Thank you, Ines. How about Karen?
Hi guys. So my name is Karen and I write as CP Santi. I'm an architect and I'm involved in the conservation of built heritage. So I'm also an academic. I teach at both the undergrad and graduate school levels. So for undergrad, I teach architectural history, architectural theory, and architectural design. And in grad school, I'm part of the Cultural Heritage Studies Department, and I teach strategies and tactics for architectural analysis in built heritage conservation. Yes, it's a very long title. I don't know why I came up with that. But yes, so hello. And I like writing about architects and people in conservation, yeah. So I write about architects and people studying architecture. I put a lot of that in my book. So please check those out. And I'm happy to be here today with my romance class family. Thank you.
Thank you. So we will make sure to link to the books that they're talking about and the books that they've written in the description, and also I'll make a Twitter thread. Let's continue with Jay.
Hi, I'm Jay. Nagulat ako. I'm Jay Tria. I'm a romance class author. I write band romance and celebrity friendships. But in another life category, I'm also a part-time lecturer in a graduate school of business teaching economics for managers. So yeah, secret na lang kung saan. But also, like Ines, if you follow me, you may have an idea. I think there is somebody in the community who's also a student presently, but so far she hasn't been in my class yet. So I hope she doesn't take my class. Medyo weird. But yeah,
That's an interesting
yeah,
question for
plot
later,
twist.
I guess.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jay. And next up, Celestine.
Hello, everyone. Hi, I'm Celestine Trinidad, and I'm a romance class author. And as you know, I'm also a doctor, a medical doctor. So I'm particularly an anatomic and clinical pathologist. And I also teach part time. I'm an assistant professor in a medical school. I will also not say, pero if you follow me, you know that where I'm teaching. So I teach pathology for medical students, and I also have a few undergraduate students because we have this accelerated program. So I also teach university level. So mostly I write also medical romance. So our the latest book that we had is also a medical romance anthology. So hello everyone.
Thank you. Okay, so yeah, so I guess everybody chose to not disclose here on the podcast where it is that they teach, and we will respect that. Please, please, so so what we're gonna do in this episode is we have some questions for them. So each teacher prof will give an answer to our question. There's time for a Q&A at the end, and they actually prepared a quiz. So if you're here in the chat, please prepare your pencils and your 1/4 sheet of paper. and and just have fun. Try to answer their question yung perfect or kahit hindi perfect. If you're good enough, you'll get a prize. Everybody's ready with their pens. I love it. People in the chat are asking for paper. Classic student behavior. I love it. Okay, yes, please. So we just have a few questions, so I'll start. So our first question is, do your colleagues in the academe know that you're an author? And does it help or hurt your career if they were to know? Like specifically a romance author, I guess. Let's start with Ines.
Oh no, me again. But yeah. Yes, they do know. And I think the issue, may issue na agad. I think the
Yes.
issue really comes from me because I feel that because I'm part of the English department, so the people, my colleagues, my peers are like Palanca awardees, and they publish textbooks and papers, and they go to conferences, and it's a different kind of publishing, right? And so it's so different from mine, and so I feel like my writing, actually not, it's not even my writing lang I feel like even my interests, everything is on a different level, and so sometimes I worry that they kind of feel I'm not of their level. I'm not saying what's higher or lower or anything, but just a different. And so that worried me. And well, of course, because it's me, I'm not gonna say, oh, I'm better than that, diba? Syempre, I'm the one feeling like I'm not of the academic level. I think that's the issue. Parang what I do is not academic. But so I was sharing this with my fellow faculty, and we're just like 5 in the group. So I was sharing this, and then one of them, who is like the super esteemed, he's a doctor. He's a doctor. He not a medical doctor. He's a doctor, and he's been with the school for a long time. And he told me, there is actually a course called Reading Romance, and nobody's teaching it right now, and you can teach it. And I was like, what? So anyway, there. So that's my that's my win actually. Parang I had this super, issue feeling bad na, oh, I'm not of the level that I should be, and then I don't have to feel bad pala. So, did I answer the question?
That actually is an interesting answer to the question because ang nangyari, you actually it's like it did have an effect because you talking about it, you suddenly
Yes.
became
Yes.
the person that they thought of to teach something.
I
and
know.
and so that's actually an interesting like development to suddenly talking about to your colleagues that you actually write romance, even if it's not something that they would write, and that's why suddenly you're the person to teach a course on romance and nobody else was. So that's so
Yes.
cool.
And of
Yeah.
course, of course, I have to add that when I did my syllabus, I had to consult Mina. I mean, come on, it cannot be a reading romance course without her expertise, right? But also, I just want to say na I think it helped that I was vulnerable about it. I mean, I was open about it. I didn't keep that who got inside, and actually being open about it led to this win. So there, yun lang.
So, dagdag ko lang kasi since Ines brought it up, she asked like, what should I be reading? What should I? So I sent her a bunch of links like this, check this out.
Yes,
Yan. But because there's
super.
a lot, it's like there's a lot of like scholarly work nga in about romance and regarding romance, and some of them even include us kasi there have been people studying us.
Studies na,
So funny,
yeah.
yeah, of what we've been doing. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be something that is entirely excluded.
Scholarly.
Yeah, and entirely
Yeah,
excluded
exactly.
from study and in
Yeah.
actual
And
school. So
academia.
yeah, so in the comments, people are saying, pwede na ba mag-enroll from Faye? Is it something that can be audited?
I think
Or
so. I don't know pa, but it's gonna be offered next sem. So in January. Oh,
in this
nag-plug na
unnamed
eh.
in this
In this
unnamed
unnamed
school?
university.
Okay, that's so exciting, and I think we should do like another episode on that in the future. Just what's been happening with that course. That's so cool. Thank you,
Yeah.
Ines. How
Thank
about you,
you.
Karen? Do your colleagues know that you're an author? And does that
Okay.
matter? Has it mattered? And if they do find out, does it matter? Does it help or hurt your career?
Short answer, yes, they do. I've been teaching for I think 4 years now, and I've slowly come out to my colleagues. Not that I was hiding it talaga, but I have a pseudonym, which is a not so secret pseudonym because it's basically my name still. But I had to use a pseudonym for writing romance because I also publish academic journals, and it might be confusing to some people who's looking for romance. Tapos biglang, oh, it's a paper on architectural phenomenology. What is this? Parang, wait, my expectations are dashed. So I decided let's create two personas. But then I'm very tamad, so I only have one SocMed account. And I put everything there. So basically, there was a book fair at the school where I teach, and my students one time they actually know, so they bought a book. No, they bought a book there, and then they went to the faculty room and they were like, "Ma'am, can you sign this?" Like, oh no. And then my co-faculty were like, "What's that?" I was like, "Oh, I'm well, this is a book I wrote." And yeah, so they know. And so if it's, what do you call this, it doesn't really hurt my career per se, but what do you call this, people sometimes are confused. No, because I have co-faculty members who actually read romance, and they're very supportive. They're like, we should have architects in romance. I'm like, ma'am, I have it. And she's like, oh my gosh. you wrote about us because it's also conservation. It's the things that matter to us as architects. So they were like, oh, they felt seen in what they do. But for other people, of course, the people who don't write romance are kind of confused because technically the problem with architects is that we don't write much. We don't write much, and if we do, we write about architecture, we write about urban planning, and I mean, I do that also, but this is more. There's not. I love writing romance. In my mind, there's no hierarchy between the two. I think that both require discipline and organization. Both require research and ideation. Kaya lang the other is more kilig. So yeah, it's more fun. But yeah, so basically it's just like wow and confusion. So it's two, but it doesn't really hurt my career either way.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So that's interesting because like it sudden I think for some careers, yes, it will be a shock to them to even see their careers in a book. And then yun, if you're not familiar with Karen's books, her characters are Filipino, so mostly, so you will actually see Filipinos in those careers, and maybe it's the first time that they'll encounter that in a book. So yeah, thank you. Let's move on to Celestine. Do your colleagues know that you're a romance author?
I- so yes, they know I am a romance author, and it started out because when I was still a student, my father was really supportive of my writing. So he when I started writing back when I was a medical student, and he was also teaching in the same university. And he when I published something, he would share it to his friends, he would share it to the other doctors, the other doctors. He would buy books for his residents. So yeah, I guess the secret was out. So when I joined the faculty, everyone surely knew that I was a writer. So that's that. So I couldn't keep it a secret anymore. And it's not that I'm not even ashamed of it. So I do, and I use it to promote my books. So I've sold books to my co-faculty. Anyway, since I write medical, romance, and other genres, they were also very supportive of my writing. Um, in some ways, though, I mean, it doesn't exactly hurt my career because everyone like knows that I write anyway. But the thing is, sometimes they say jokes about it. Like there was one time kasi you could put your creative accomplishments into the your application for promotion. So I was going to put my publications there, and then one of my co-faculty said, "Ay, wag naman yung romance, please." so, so,
Ganon!
How
but
dare!
Excuse me.
yes. But
Seriously,
I put it anyway.
Good for
Okay.
you.
go you.
So, and that's just that though. That doesn't really hurt my academic status anyway. But actually, it maybe kind of also helped my academic status because recently we're having a celebration for the sesquicentennial of our faculty. May clue na kung saan ako galing. Di ba? So, kasi, they asked me if I could do a webinar on creative writing for physicians, and that's a really big honor because it's going to be catering to the entire faculty, the entire college, basically, and also reaching out to students. So that was a win. I guess for me, and because of that webinar too, somebody approached me to do a similar webinar, na possibly national, but I'm not sure yet. So I'm hoping that would be a good thing because I like promoting writing, and I also like promoting romance writing. I think in my webinar, I think marami akong marami akong parinig na ginawa na romance is valid. So yeah, so uh, so there. So I think it really it also helped my career, and I just don't mind what other people say.
Thank you for sharing that. And that's cool. That's cool that you actually got to like flex this in in a in a webinar, and also like actually get invited to talk more about it. I encountered what you mentioned about whether if your job has also to do with publishing, and if you're supposed to merge your published work in one area with another. And I actually at the time decided to keep it separate, and also like Karen chose different names. Like I have a name for this kind of writing and another name for this kind of writing. And then later, it was only like this year or last year that I changed my CV to be more of the Mina CV. So everything else is now like parang underneath what I write as a romance writer. So that's interesting because it's still like the advice would still be to keep it separate in most cases. No, nagkataon lang that in your case you were able to you combined it anyway, and this is what happened. So that's cool. Thank you, Jay. How about you? Do your colleagues in the business in the graduate school of business know
Yeah, that we will not tell.
that
So
we will not name?
that we will not. Two of my colleagues know, but these are also the same people that are my only friends in terms of faculty, and basically the reason why I'm there. And I was listening to everybody else's answer, and I just also noticed that my experience teaching is that I am more removed from the rest of my faculty co co-faculty people than as compared to the rest of them, where they get to actually talk to more of the people. Or maybe it's just my choice that I am not participating as much. In any case, there's not much opportunity also for me to be found out. But those who did, the two friends who knew, they were just asking about it at first, like what do I write? How do I write it? How am I published? So the first level of curiosity, and then after that, it's already a done topic. And I think if ever somebody else in terms of faculty found out, it will just be another thing to know about me, another thing to talk about. I'm not sure if it will help or if it will not help. I haven't thought that far into it. But in terms of students, my students find out somehow that there was one student, and she was still my student at the time, and she asked me if I was me, if my author name was me, and I looked her in the eye and I lied to her face. Na it's not me. It was the first time I was found out, and I was
So you lied. Okay.
I lied to her face, and then eventually I had to be honest and admit that it was me. Baka, maybe it was even one of those times that my face was in the actual newspaper, so you can't really lie for too long.
Yun naman kasi, lying pa eh.
Yeah. I was surprised, but also it's really cute because she's also a reader pala, and she ended up reading my books and buying my books and also buying some of the other romance class books. And she even attended one of our fields events 10
diba?
years ago
That's
when we can still do those things. And that has happened to, I think, a few more students. Jella was saying in the chat that her sister was my student. So yeah, that happened. That there was one time that Jella and I were talking about Arashi merch, and it was kind of weird that I cannot give the merch to her sister who's my student to pass on to her because it feels like a different a different place. So we had to meet separately. But yeah, also there's another student who is kind of part of the community now. She's following us, and I think she's had attempts to start writing also, but she hasn't written yet. But yeah, so
Calling
mostly
her out
students
pa.
for me. Hindi naman. Mostly students for me yung nakakaalam.
Pinag. Where's your writing? Oh, but that's so interesting because sometimes again like just mentioning it if people aren't familiar with how the community was, at least when we were doing events. It's very romancy. It's not something you stumble upon if you're just into books or into whatever other genre. This is the way that we do events. It's very romance oriented. The authors are us, and our we bring our friends, and you kind of have to want to do this if you're going to. You're not just randomly gonna run into somebody. If they find out who we are and what we write, they kind of are either just several degrees away or they sought it out. So they might actually be the kind of people who would be supportive anyway, right?
Yeah,
so
it's
so that's
deliberate.
cool. Yeah. We kind of have our protective bubble in that way.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing. Let's move on to our next question. So, does your teaching make its way into your writing? What do you feel should and shouldn't make it into a book, though, if you're writing about it? Ines, let's start with you.
Yeah, I have an answer for this, no? I don't like the I don't like the creepy teacher who's super old. And then a young student. I'm sorry. I just feel that it
Noted.
just doesn't
Yes.
work. It just doesn't work. And especially now that there's so many sexual harassment cases going on. So I really feel that, you know, we don't go into that. But the cute thing, okay, like I was saying kanina, what I like about being immersed in this world is that I, even if I'm not looking for it, I hear about their issues. I hear about what makes them kilig. I hear about their fandoms. I hear, all these things. So things start percolating. And then it's not even mental. It's like you start to feel also, I don't know, start feeling the same as this, not just the students but the whole setting. Like, it didn't happen. I don't steal their stories. But Karen actually also has a story about this. But like, I had two students that I knew were together in my class. It's a few years ago. And I knew kasi everyone, syempre, was talking about it, teasing them, ganyan. And then, what I found so cool pa was dynamic duo sila. Like, when they would work together, their presentations were so good. And like, I even chose them as an example. I didn't know they were together pa. And I was like, look, this is like an example of what you should do, ganyan. And then, ayan, that's when people started teasing them. So I was like, oh, they're together pala. And then there was one class where they came in and ang sungit-sungit ng girl. So I was like, oh no, I think they fought because parang the guy was looking like he was trying to make her less sungit, and parang she was being so Ines with him, and they had to present. And so I was the one feeling so conscious there about, oh no, I hope they're gonna be okay. So I it's just funny. Things like that just kind of jumpstart, or kind of push you into coming up with all these, with along those lines, basically.
As you were describing it, it's such a YA scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, super,
Sobrang,
diba?
sobrang
And so you
college
get so,
romance.
yeah, then you just want to write it. Kahit na not what happened, but something else na in the same, I think it's really just getting yourself in the zone of that makes it fun.
Thank you. How about you, Karen? Does your teaching make its way into your writing? You kind of shared a little bit about how you write about architects. So,
Mhm.
anything else you
Yeah.
wanted to share?
Actually, it was funny, It in one of my books, for example, Dare to Love, I discuss conservation concepts, and my mentor at grad school, because I also teach built heritage conservation. My mentor in grad school was like, we should make wait, here, we should make this book part of our required reading list. I was
My
like,
visual
because,
aid!
diba? May visual aid ako. Teacher ako.
I love the readiness.
Diba?
I know,
It's here. No.
grabe.
And then he was like, kasi I was telling him, tell me what your book is about. So I go, so the main character is a conservation architect, and the guy is an anthropologist, and they meet, and then there's an earthquake. There really was an earthquake, and there was an earthquake, and all these churches fell down. So I'm talking about consultations with stakeholders, um, following a very specific protocol and procedures, and coming up with a framework before the work begins. And he was like, wow, fiction nga yan. because yeah, because sometimes in real life that doesn't happen. No, so yes, competency porn for the win. And he was like, yeah, this could be an example of what should happen actually in if everything went well, no, if all the agencies and the government and the people were working together, this is what would have happened. No, so that is something that was funny, because we also do things like cultural mappings, and I've written about those. No, cultural mappings, that's really a thing, and we really do that. And I've written stories about that in From the Heart, for example. Yeah, so stuff like that. About the second question is, what should not make it into my book, right? Because I think I should be careful. I should be careful what I write about, because sometimes I think about ethics of what should be included and should not be included. I think it's okay to be inspired by life, because it's something that's right there in front of you. But yeah, for example, because I was so inget with the book of the doctors, no, for our excellent Dian. I'm so inget. So I also want a collection of short stories for architecture. Tapos, I wanted it to be a collection of new adult stories, but I wanted it to be new adult. So college level. But the thing is, I teach college level. So parang it's unethical to write about people studying architecture when I teach architecture. So I didn't want to write it set in my university, because it's kind of, no, I don't want to do that. So I didn't want to use my university, but I didn't want to use another university, because yeah, it's kind of disloyal. No, I didn't want to use another university. So I decided I'm going to create my own university. No? So I made my own university, and I made this program that's based on an American university, the Cooper Union. And my program is CHED compliant. Please take note. but, but I actually already
Good
have
job,
a
good
campus
job.
plan. I have a logo and a school calendar, because activities and organizations
Grabe.
matter. Yeah, but those
Syllabus
are the
also,
things. So I had to
syllabus.
create that whole universe, because I didn't feel comfortable writing about my university. Huwag naman na tayo mag-syllabus. Pero yeah. Oo, CHED compliant pa lang aking ano. Pero yeah,
And
things
lesson
like that.
plan.
So it's, huwag na lesson plan. Pero yeah, syllabus pala, but not the lesson plan. Weekly
Can I
outcomes, no, hindi
say,
na.
can I say it's a consistent level of detail that as with your other work, whether set in
Na-OC,
your
no?
university or not. Yeah. Kasi,
Mhm.
but that's really interesting. And funny lang that you brought up that it's like the escapism that they say we write
Mhm.
isn't just in romance, but in like
Mhm.
systems that work well. and
Yes, with people really
eh,
working,
Yes, agree.
with the government working, things like that. Yes, go government.
yay. But yeah,
Yay.
I mean, that's something to think about, yeah, but because we're writing the way that we've chosen to write, because it's set in our contemporary setting, in our country, in our cities, with Filipinos. So there is like an entire society of problems and issues that we're kind of working around, and yun. So this is what one can choose to decide. I can choose to write, like you decide that things work here in my fiction. That's super interesting. Thank you. How about you, Celestine?
Um, Yeah, so teaching does make its way into my writing, especially recently since especially since I started teaching in the medical school. So I do write medical about medical life in my stories, but recently I've been writing also about teaching life. So my latest story, the Now Then and Ever After in the Tropetastic Kindness bundle actually features a teacher because at the time I was kind of dealing with some issues about about being a teacher because just a backgrounder in the medical field you can choose to go into just clinical practice or you can choose to go also part-time into teaching or full-time in teaching, but that rarely happens. So in general, teaching is kind of looked down upon in terms of how much you make. Yeah, the question that I'm always asked is, so magkano ba kinikita mo kasi dyan sa teaching? And
Ay,
you're kind of
nako, masakit.
yeah, and it is right, and you're kind of expected to go more into clinical practice because that's where you're supposed to make more money. But I like teaching. I really I find fulfillment in it. So I was dealing with those feelings, and as I usually do, I write my feelings into my story. So made its way into that story, I think. But with a hopeful message for teachers everywhere, because I really we need more teachers, and it's a noble job, just as noble as being a doctor. So yeah, so yeah. And for the second question, I also agree with Ines that teacher-student relationships, please no. No, just no. Teacher-teacher relationships, on the other hand, yes. And I think there's a next question for that.
Yes, pwede yan.
Okay lang, okay lang.
Diba? And in general, I was saying, I do put a lot of my experiences into writing, but I don't feel comfortable writing about other people's experiences, especially my students. I do see that, I mean, I do see what their lives are like, and I would only write about something similar to their experience if it is also an experience similar to mine, because I feel that there are some stories that are not my stories to tell. So, ayun, that's what I feel should not go into my writing as a teacher.
Thank you.
And
Uh,
can I say lang something?
yes.
Raising hand. Ma'am?
Yes. Yes, yes.
Permission to
You
speak.
may share. Yeah.
Miss
No,
Bautista-Yao.
but I think that it's so, yes, it is super noble to choose not to teach versus make more money. But I think what's so also is if you weren't there to teach, how are the students gonna learn, right? I mean, how are the new doctors, the future doctors going to learn? So
Yeah.
I think, parang how dare they put down the profession, but I know what you mean. I
Someone has to do
I feel.
but they should be paid well for it, right? I think
Yes.
everyone
But that's
I think
true.
everyone
Yeah.
agrees.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, I have short kwento. Like few days ago, maybe 3 days ago, my husband, Mark was saying to me and the kids, he's like, Mama should work harder so that we can buy a house with a garden. And then Tammy, my 7-year-old, goes, no, even if Mama works hard, she doesn't really get paid much. So I was like, oh my God.
No.
Oh my gosh!
How does she know?
She knows. Chismosa. She listens.
Yeah.
Oh man.
She
knows.
knows. So she said, Papa, it has to be you.
A
I was
young
like,
person has picked up on this.
Oh no! What are we teaching the generation?
So now I know, no. So now I told them, okay, so Papa makes the money, I make the difference. Oh, quote unquote from one of my former teachers. I was like,
Quotable
yes,
quote.
okay yan.
I love it. Oh my God.
Oh, diba?
Naiyak ako.
But yeah, fix
Okay.
the system so you can make the
Yeah.
difference and the money.
Yes,
The
please.
system
Oh
is
my
toxic.
gosh.
Yeah.
That's just
For the
indicative of
world, that's the
something that
issue,
we
di
need
ba?
to that
Yeah,
we
fix the
totally need to
system.
fix. Okay.
Yes.
Taking note
Gagalit nyo kami.
taking note of this. Jay, how about you?
Sige. Babalik ako sa sagot ko na hindi kalat. Okay, so what
Uh,
teaching that ano nga
does
yung
your
tanong?
teaching make its way into your
Okay,
work?
thanks.
Does your teaching
Right.
make its way into your writing? And what do you feel should and should not make it into your book? So, yan. Yes.
Okay, thank you for the wonderful question. If you've read Songs of Our Breakup, I literally wrote down the law of diminishing marginal utility when Jill was trying to figure out her breakup with Kim. And essentially that economic concept is about the law of sawa. How if you are as you consume more of the same good or service, the incremental satisfaction that you get from consumption of that good decreases at a certain point. And yeah, so I was walking back to class on the day that I was going to discuss that, and I just went, right. So maybe I'm just gonna put that down in the chapter that I'm writing because I was writing SOOB then. So that's a specific thing that went into my book. And also in that same in that same universe device, I loved it also. It's my favorite concept also. So in that same universe, Anna from Songs to Get Over You is an MBA student, and Mickey and Jill are both econ undergrads. So those are specific things that will go into my writing. And it's something that is always going to happen, I guess, because as long as I'm still teaching, I'm not going to be away from that experience of being around students and being around people who are learning and in the academic setting essentially. In terms of things that I will not write, it's really the same answer as Ines, because you see these things, or maybe in your own experience in school, there is always going to be that open secret of this much older professor who's having a not very nice relationship with a younger student that's usually married pa siya, toxic things like that. And also in terms of if ever I will write about something in a school setting, I would also not want to put into, I guess, not so healthy student behavior, such as those who are extremely grade conscious, those who are coming into school not to learn primarily, but to get a certain grade, and the effort required for that is not in line with what they're trying to get. And also, even the grading system is also something that has to be fixed, and maybe something that should not be there in the first place. But that's a
I
whole
agree.
altogether, right? So Ines and
Controversial,
I
but
are
I agree.
Ines and I
Oh,
subscribe to this podcast called The Science of Happiness, and there's one episode there that talks about how grades are actually not helping our happiness, and it's not a good way of measuring how people learn, because you are essentially comparing yourself with somebody else, and the metrics and definitely the foundations are not the same. So even if the environment in school is the same and the level of expertise of the professor is the same, the ability to absorb and to learn is not going to be the same. That doesn't mean that learning did not happen. So the grading system is flawed. So yan lang yung
agree.
sinabi. Nasagot ko ba yung tanong?
Yes. It's called the
This is
happiness lab.
noted.
Yon. I will end there. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm taking note of the things that we are going to fix.
Yes.
So all of the things that we have to fix pala. Okay, thanks.
So many broken
Okay.
systems.
No, but we actually knew this, and I don't know, maybe writing fiction was our way to cope and try to create
Yeah.
like a better
I agree.
better
Better
way where
world.
things were working better. And
Yes.
Yeah. Did you know
the
about
next
the
question
grades?
is actually
sorry.
about nicer things.
Nicer.
No, sige lang. Did you? Yes. Please share your thoughts. Ines.
My thoughts on the grades.
You forgot
you
to
want to
raise your
add to
hand,
that?
Ines.
Yes.
Ay, oo nga, sorry. Ma'am.
Fine.
No, because that podcast, it's called the Happiness Lab. Jay and I were talking about it, that episode talaga actually made me want, and I don't really like to do studies and, I'd
Yeah.
rather write kilig. But that episode made me want to do a study on it. And, to say na, look, if we take out the grades, how much more motivated, and the motivation will be real. And anyway, never mind. But yeah, that's just my, I just wanted to say that.
But
Add to the
then,
list of
Chen,
systems that we
I
will
I
fix.
love I love that I love that everyone here wants to fix things. Is all. I think, and I support. But the next question is exactly that, like something things that we like and things that are more aspirational. Sean, do you see in your real teaching life that you want to see more of in books? How about, sige, Ines, let's start with you.
What? Sorry, what's the question again? Na
What
ano,
kinds of
distract ako.
Not
Ayan.
not listening, -3.
I know.
May
Minus
bigay sa board.
3. Sa
Yung
no,
strict pala si
not
Ari.
listening girls.
Stand
what
in the
actually
corner.
do you want? What
Yes.
kinds of tropes or inspiration from your teaching life do you want to see in books? So what do you want? What do you actually want to see more of in books about with teacher characters or in academics?
I think this is the perfect question to connect to what we've been saying. I really like. I think that's also why I write, and maybe that's why a lot of us write, because we can really create the world that we want. So the world where, I mean, grounded in reality, of course, but to make it turn out with a happier ending, or an ending that we wish for, and like exactly that. Like maybe we will have nga that school where there are no grades. Maybe we can have these students who are not so grade conscious, and then that's all they worry about. Or um, we can have, so all these things. I think, though, there's so much we as a community, Romance Class, has actually written about so many positive things already, so many empowered women, and which I think is such a big plus, especially now during this patriarchal Philippines society. But what about teaching in particular, I think that I want to see is that, what kind of school do we actually envision? What kind of teachers do we actually want? Because as you're saying, a romance is aspirational. So it would be super nice and even more kilig na. The tips for authors who want to write these. I think it's really just what we've been doing. Just write about what you want to see and make it believable and kilig. That's it. I'll raise my hand again later when I want to talk.
Thank you, Ines. Karen, how about you? What do you want to see in books?
I'll raise my hand. No, no, kidding. I want, what I really want is faculty romance. Kasi no, it's also set in that universe that I designed. No, no, we have an ongoing joke kasi with my faculty, co-faculty friends.
Kala ko ongoing faculty romance, you
Ongoing. Hindi kasi nga, there's this guy. No, there's this guy. Kabarkada
Ayan
ko
na,
siya.
there's this guy.
Ayan na, there's this guy. And we're always kidding him like, and he's always talking about the one who got away. And it's like, why did she get away? Anong gagawin na natin ngayon? Tapos when they found out that I was writing romance, they're like, isulat mo na yung kwento niya para baka ma-inspire, ganyan. So we were all brainstorming, while we were at the faculty pantry. We were all brainstorming, how will he meet the one? So they had all these meet cutes coming, and I was like, no, I wanted to be a faculty, parang maybe. Kasi in architecture, for example, there are two types of faculty. The faculty that practices, that has a lot of projects and the faculty who is into the academe, who actually studies the whys and hows of architecture. So, and there's sometimes a sort of space between them kasi they're both teaching architecture but they don't really understand each other. Parang, why are you writing? You should be designing. And then this one is naman, you're designing, you don't understand it naman, ganon. So I wanted to look at that, that, what do you call this? That juxtaposition of characters and put them together, And we were even thinking, because he's a really strict prof and he's kind of young pa, bored top notcher. And he was like, we were like, what if yung one kid na nabagsak mo dati, one kid who you gave a low grade to, and then she comes back and she becomes a faculty member, and then kayo pala. and we were like, oh my god, who could that be, and things like that. And these are funny things that we actually do when we get together. We try to think of love lives for the people who are unattached, and I don't know if it's something that's good, but it's something, yeah, they're kind of game naman, like who do you want to who do you want for me, things like that. If they're open naman, we do that. And what else? Actually, in I think in college now, there's because I want to write the college stories, and I was thinking that there are a lot of opportunities to meet people, because when I was a student, I was kind of shy, so I wasn't joining orgs.
Hindi ko
So,
ma-imagine.
We don't believe. We
oh,
don't.
sige, I was
Stop
tamad.
fooling us.
Okay, I was tamad. I
Mas
didn't
believable
want
yan.
Okay,
I
Shy
didn't want to
hindi.
join orgs. Shy hindi. I didn't want to join orgs kasi nga parang hindi na nga ako natutulog, mag-o-org pa ako, di ba? So I was like, okay, let's not org. Pero these days in the school where I teach, they have so many organizations. There's an org who are all singers, tapos may mga dancers, tapos may mga different what do you call this? So parang, oh my gosh, there's so many opportunities to meet people, because when I was at college, I didn't know anyone else beyond my section. Because so I was thinking like that, there's so much opportunity for people to get together, and I want to explore that further. Yun lang.
Thank you,
So should
Karen.
we get it na get it recorded na what Karen's gonna
Wait lang.
write?
Wait lang for
Ayun na
accountability.
yung
Wait lang.
Faculty
Wait lang.
Romance
Yes.
Anthology. Oo.
Yes.
May
Galing ko.
title na.
Magaling, may
If
trabaho tayo.
you accept.
Oo nga na siya.
If you accept.
Wait, Mamlet was 4 years in the making. So
4
yun lang.
years because of Karen.
Artie, that's on you, go.
How about
Sige na,
salamat.
Celestine? How about
yun
Celestine
din.
and anything
yeah,
you want
yun
to
din,
see
kasi I
more
mentioned-
of?
Yeah,
Faculty
ayun. So, I
romance
mentioned
talaga. Oh.
that. Teacher romance, hot professors, please. Yun yung ano. And in
That's
relation
great.
to what and in relation to what Ines said a while ago, about yung a better world and better students, for example. In my writing recently, I've noticed that I've been giving a bit of emphasis on people who actually like learning. Because who are nerds for STEM, for science, for medicine, people who love learning for the sake of learning and not just to get high grades. Because that's what I see from my students. I really like the students who actually seem to have a love for learning, because I guess that's also what that's also my own approach to looking at studying, because I'm a nerd. And yeah, and I like that. And in the context of romance, that particular trope, I have a soft spot for that. People working on projects together, researching together, falling in love in the process, inside the library, ganyan, library dates. So
Yes,
and-
yes.
Gusto ko yun talaga library date.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
appreciate it.
meron siyang particular na nakilig talaga for me, and I think that's a particular setting that I would like to see more in romance books. That comes because of my teaching life. And yeah, I think that's all.
Okay,
I used
got
to hang
it.
out in the
Hot
library also
professors,
all the
please.
time.
May title na yung mga dami ng title suggestions dun sa
Marami na,
anthology na
oo,
Ayan
i-accept
marami ng
natin.
na.
Future,
title
may we go out.
suggestions.
Hot for
Wait,
teacher.
ayoko lang
Wow.
na-get.
Thanks. Thanks, thanks people in the chat for your suggestions. They're very good.
No,
Ah.
we will note
Jay?
them. We'll write them down.
Jay,
Okay,
how
so I will
about
also
you?
I will also share
What do you
tropes,
want to
but
see?
yeah, I have to repeat the hot profs just for consistency and just so the universe will hear that we want to see more hot profs in real life and also in fiction. And yeah, maybe we say this because in real life we don't see that. There's a very serious shortage of hot profs in the faculty rooms, at least the ones where I have access to, and that's a problem. Anyway, yeah, so profs dating. I also would want to see secret relationships, and that's something that I saw firsthand. There was a couple in school before who were a couple na pala before they went into grad school, but they kept it hidden. I don't know why. So I think that's something that's good to explore. Like
Interesting.
why would you make that decision to not tell people that you are dating and it's grad school, you're all adults. I don't know why. So
Teachers or
that's
students?
students. It's
Ah.
medyo weird. So it's a good thing I think, to examine why they would even make that choice. Another trope, seatmates to lovers. So they don't know each
Ay,
other. Tapos first day of
yeah.
class, they are seatmates.
Yes.
Tapos they're seatmates na forever. Ganyan. Tapos,
That's cute.
and then last on my list is rivals to lovers. I think in any
You wrote
class,
it
there's always
Mm.
going to be at least one person, one alpha who's the best in the class. And sometimes dalawa sila, there's one boy and one girl. And the rivalry is very imminent, and then the tension is all of course going to be delicious if it's something like that. So that's one trope that I also want to see more. Pakisulat. Pakisulat, guys.
Plug mo na
Pakisulat,
yung story mo.
inassign sa class.
Inassign sa class.
So if we're talking about prompts here, and you're hearing about it, they're talking about what they want to read. So if feel free, if it inspires you, definitely write it and then let us know.
Yes.
Don't just wait for them to write it.
Maybe
Because we
we
have papers
will,
to check pa kasi.
maybe we will accept the anthology. Oh my gosh, I love
Ang
DBA.
daming
Ang
titles.
daming
Ang daming-
lumalabas.
Oo.
I
Oo,
love
this
DBA.
class is very
DBA.
participative. Oo.
Cute.
I would like to thank the class for your active participation.
Plus two kayong lahat. Plus
Yeah.
5.
That's nice. So, final question for our prepared set. How has writing and reading romance made you a better teacher, you think? Ines, do you have an answer? Do you have your answer for this? Your Miss Universe answer?
Okay. My answer for this. Wait, what was the second question?
How has writing and
flash me
reading
yet.
romance made you a better teacher?
And then the second question
Yun
was...
lang.
Ay,
Just
yun
that
lang.
one. Yeah.
Wala
Hanap ka pa ng ibang
Oo.
tanong. Isa lang.
I don't know what's happening. Baka I'm hungry nga. No, just kidding.
Credit.
-5.
Oo nga, hala. No, what I love about writing romance is you really get into the emotions of the characters. And I think that doing that and understanding my characters and getting to know them has actually made me a more empathetic and more compassionate teacher, especially now during the pandemic, where before kasi, it was important to keep this distance. between me and the students. Well, there still is, but now I make a bigger effort to check up on them, to find out how they're doing, to really get to know them. And I think that uh, actually writing and reading romance and getting to know these different characters has also opened my mind to all the different things that they could be going through. I mean, does that make sense? It's hard when I just see my face here and not everybody else. Can I see everybody else's face?
Hi.
It's just like in class when can you please
I
open your
know.
cameras because I'm just
Please open your
audience.
camera, please.
Kailangan ng audience si Ines eh. Go.
Oh,
Oh my
talaga.
God, teacher angst is spilling all over its podcast. Sorry.
Yeah. I know it really is, grabe. No, but I really think that's it. I think that's what's so wonderful about writing and reading romance is that you really get, it's really um, how you get to know your characters and take that into, into the classroom. And so you become, again, a more compassionate and caring teacher. It's easier because of the practice of writing, and that's what I think.
Okay. Thank you. Karen, how about you? How has writing and reading romance made you a better teacher?
Okay. I've always said that writing romance in general and being in this community in particular has helped me become a better person. Because because really,
Yeah, Miss Universe na
yeah.
Miss Universe yung sagot.
I'm in blue. No. Being a writer kasi nga. Shh. Class. Shh. Okay. Being a writer ka kasi, di ba, it's not about you see everything that happens behind the scenes because you're creating that scenes, and you know that a scene cannot stand by itself. There has to be a backstory, and you know that backstory, how people are affected by that. So we write about feelings, we write about motivations, and sabi nga ni Ines, this helps us have more empathy towards our students, toward other people, because we know that there's more than what we see on the surface. We know that there's more to people than what they show to us, and it makes us more understanding in some ways, no. And also I like being updated. No, I think this community, I like being updated with the things that I should be conscious about, issues like, for example, mental health, the LGBTQ community, and even slang. The things that parang I'm not super behind. I'm still behind with the slang, but I'm not super behind. But it because it helps you communicate. It helps evolve your worldview. So when you communicate with your students, you have this better grasp of what is happening in the world, no, in the world, and how that relates to what you're teaching. So I think, yeah, because I don't want to read the news anymore, so I'd rather read the updates on Twitter or something, because the news is kind of depressing. So yeah, and it makes me focus on the things that I want to focus on the things that deal with real people problems and how to alleviate those. So yun, I thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much for that answer. Miss
Don't I
Miss
get
Karen.
plus?
Oo.
Plus points.
Miss Tondo.
A plus ka na.
Thank you. Celestine, so how do you think, because you've been writing other genres before, so but sige, I think let's focus that question on romance specifically. So how does how has writing and reading romance specifically made you a better teacher, you think?
I mean, speaking of other genres, I mean, you know, reading and writing romance in particular made me more conscious of the things that can potentially make other people uncomfortable when reading, or like triggering, like the importance of content warning. Because as a doctor, you don't get jaded exactly, but you tend to be exposed to a lot of sickness, of bad things. So because it's something you have to face every day, so you have to to get used to that, because you have to face that every day to make things better, to heal your patients. But uh, I kind of I mean, when I write something that has a lot of description about about illness, about even gory descriptions of bodies, and I kind of didn't realize that some of these things other people would find triggering, potentially triggering. And actually reading and writing romance made me more conscious of that, because you realize that not all people are the same when it comes to how things would make them feel, with how things would make them react, and you have to respect that. And with as Karen said a while ago, romance does teach you more empathy. So relating that to teaching, now I've become a bit more conscious also of how my students would perceive what we're teaching them, especially since I teach pathology, and we teach pathology is basically the basis of disease. So it's the basis of everything. So you tend to go more scientific into that, and you forget how it would affect people. So reading and writing romance reminded me of the humanity of of medicine, for example. And I think that's made me a better teacher, because you have to connect these things to the humanity of your patients. You're not just teaching how to treat a disease. You're teaching how to treat people who have the disease. So that's I think that's a weird way of how romance has impacted my life as a teacher. Also, and I think it also made me better connect to my students in general, because the things we write about in romance are things that people experience, and are things that are close to other people's hearts. So when students read my work, it also, I think, humanizes doctors. So
Mhm.
and makes them also more aware that they're not alone in their journey through medicine.
Thank you. Thank you. Oo nga. Actually, yes. Now that you bring it up, yeah, it's almost like the coping mechanisms you develop talking about like medical things. You need to suddenly shift and remember that other people don't use the same, or they haven't built the same mechanisms when they're reading something. Or yeah. Thank you. How about you, Jay? Our final contestant.
I was I have to make a disclaimer that my answer is not Miss Universe level. I was not informed that it was supposed to be Miss Universe answers. My answer is a bit more technical. I find that with writing and reading romance, I am more aware of the outline, because I'm primarily an outliner, and even if I don't outline, I have an idea of how to make thoughts go and how to arrange them into a flow that makes sense and that leads to a conclusion that makes sense, hopefully makes sense. And that helps me when I prepare my lessons, and hopefully when I also hold my lectures and discuss and try to explain. But specifically, it helps when I have to advise students when they are working on their reports, and also when they are working on their papers, their final papers, because sometimes I do consult with that. Because surprisingly, and this was really a surprise for me, and it hasn't changed in the years that I have been doing this, but there are students who find it challenging to put their thoughts down and arrange them in a way that makes sense, especially if they have to present it within a certain time limit. So it's not a readily available skill to a lot of students. So they struggle with that, even if they have the idea, they have the thought process in there, they have the knowledge, they can't arrange it in a way that other people will understand. So being able to outline in romance when I write, and even when I read, I being able to pick that up, the outline, helps me, I feel, become a better teacher. Uh, Also, it connects me to that, to how I because the last academic paper I did was my Strama paper, which was years ago. And although the skill set or the experience, of course, of writing your Strama paper and writing romance definitely different, the skill set is fundamentally similar in how you have to research, how you have to organize your thoughts, how the conclusion has to make sense. So that connects me still to that requirement that I feel is that I need to still have as I continue to teach. So that's my not so Miss Universe entry to the question.
Thank you, Jay. Dagdag ko lang that I read Jay's drama paper for research.
For research purposes.
And I agree, I agree that you are like writing a technical document, but you're actually arguing for a point. You have the message to bring across, and that's what we are trying to do when we write romance or the story of two people. They want something, and we're trying to convey that. And yeah, if people who write for class, they might not want to write in real life, but they're writing something for class if they actually develop that skill to be able to make their point and convey what they want to in the amount of time allotted and in the number of words allotted, then that would be a helpful skill. Yes. Thank you. So thank you to our profs, to our teachers who attended our panel today. And we actually have a quiz. So we have questions. So everybody in the chat, you're invited to answer. How are we gonna do this? Like, they can take down their answers, no, and then maybe they can take a picture and and post their quiz responses, and then verify natin kung sino yung who has the most correct answers, right? Okay,
Yes,
so
yes.
there's a prize. If you want to join, please get like a sheet of paper and a pen. And is everyone ready? Okay, I'll give you in the chat a few seconds to take down to get ready. Like, get your piece of paper or however you wanna answer our questions. Grabe, walang pen.
Let me just say, it's so entertaining to see the student behavior in the chat, because that's literally how it is in real life. There's only like two
Yes,
people who have
no one
actual
has
types of
paper.
paper, and sila yung official.
Okay.
Nagpupunit,
Nagpupunit-punitin
nagpupunit pa sila ng paper for everyone.
Pwedeng, yes, Denise, pwedeng notes app.
Honesty
Okay.
system, ha? Walang
Okay.
proctor eh.
Yes, pwede. However you want to log your answer, just so you, if you're able to take a picture or take a screenshot of it and then post it later on Twitter so our profs can verify and choose a winner. We'll let you know what the prize is later. Thank you for joining kahit hindi nyo pa alam yung prize. I love this group. Okay. Grabe yung mga walang pen at walang tinta yung pen. You're all very funny. Okay.
Hindi naman
Hindi
right,
naman-
Marna, strong.
Hindi naman.
Hindi naman.
May hashtag
Oo
po ba?
nga.
You can just hashtag RomanceClass so we don't miss it. Yun na lang. Yes, I love it. Okay. Can we have the first question? And then, wait. Siyempre, hanapin ko siya para mabasa natin.
The
So our-
contributing teacher can read it. Maybe.
Okay, I can just read it. Which of the following diseases is also known as the broken heart syndrome? Your choices are A. Kawasaki, B. Takotsubo, C. Kikuchi, or D. Fallot.
Okay, that was question number 1. Do we have a graphic of that?
Yes,
Tanya?
yes.
Yes,
Oo.
It can be seen. It can be seen. Don't worry.
Okay.
It's flashed on the screen.
Open notes, open internet. You can see you
Grabe.
anyway.
No, wag na. Honesty system.
Bawal.
Responders
Tapos
browser.
nila yung
Wala
pinaka-strict
tayong
dito.
monitor.
Not me.
Respondus monitor.
Grabe. Okay. If everyone got their first
Time limit
question,
na lang.
let's
Oh, next
move
question na.
on.
Next question.
Let's move on to the next question. Who's number 2? Okay.
It's mine.
Contributing.
Okay.
Okay.
Before watching your crush's newest film, you lose yourself in his interviews and behind the scenes clips. Based on narrative theory, as you watch the film, you are adding a layer of A, intertext, B, paratext, C, duration, D, focalization. Dun, 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 dun.
Maybe we should have a timer.
Jeopardy!
A, B, C, or D?
I think that's enough time.
Yes.
Yeah, pwede na yan.
Okay. May timer.
May timer. I was going to do it, but
Naglabasa ng mga materials. Okay. How about the third question? May we have the third question?
Okay, question number 3 is from me. In architectural building utilities, a coupling is a blank. Letter A, a high-efficiency toilet. Letter B, a fitting on a railroad vehicle. Letter C, a short length of pipe that allows 2 pipes to be joined. And D, a consensual act of mating. Guys, architectural building utilities, just to underline that.
Kasi pwede
Part.
naman yung
Pwede naman, pero yung kaya nga specify ko in architectural building utilities.
Oh, okay,
Good
okay.
question kasi
Fair.
babagsak tayo yan.
Minus.
Yan.
Okay.
Nasaan yung timer mo? Okay, good.
Sorry. Ayan daw. Oh, yan na.
Timer lang.
Okay.
Next
And now-
question. Last question.
Our last question.
Okay. If you go on the same date with the same guy for 7 days in a row, and your incremental satisfaction from each date starts declining from the 4th date, by virtue of the law of diminishing marginal utility, does this mean this guy is not the one? Yes or no? So we already discussed this concept earlier.
Yes, we
May review ako
did.
kanina.
Oo nga.
There was an unintentional review.
Wow. Kailangan may
Wow,
paying
yeah.
attention.
Oo.
So if you're answering, please take a photo or a screenshot of your 4 answers and then post it on Twitter with #RomanceClass. Our profs will be checking.
So
May
excited
checking.
to
I'm
see
so
the
sorry.
answers.
We are not requiring essay answers, by the way, but
Yeah, please. Wag naman.
Okay, finished. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much
Salamat.
to everyone in the chat. Do you have any final questions? We just have a few more minutes. We want to stick to our time slot.
Wow, galing, Faye.
We want to stick to our time slot. Grades are just numbers. It's true.
Yes.
It's true, it's true.
That's true.
So
Agree.
so share your answers on Twitter. We'll check and then let you know what the prize is. We'll decide and figure it out. Paolo, yes, you go.
You can bring your phone to the CR so that you are still part of class.
So yeah, I hate modified true or false.
The
Mahirap
worst.
din yan i-check.
Also,
It's hard to check.
So
Yeah.
we went through all of the program questions and we just did the quiz prepared by our author guests. Thank you so much for coming up with that. Kat, okay lang na 0.
Yes,
okay
bawal
lang,
din
we
yan.
not judge you.
We just
Bawal
said we'll reform grading altogether.
Yes.
Yes, we will abolish
Grades are
grading
not
system.
everything, Charot.
Yeah. So thank you very much to everyone who attended. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel here. And this podcast is also working with Anchor now. So follow us on subscribe on Spotify. We're also on Apple Podcasts. We are also on anchor.fm/romanceclass, so you can actually leave a voice message that we can play at the next podcast. Just make sure that you mention your name when you're leaving a message. Parang voicemail. It's so cute. We can do that
It's
now.
cute.
Yeah, so if it's something that you want to participate in, but we continue to do the stream because we love everyone, talking to everybody in the chat, which we're seeing. and and we actually wanted to do this panel today because it's still technically like the break for our teachers. Hindi pa nagsa-start yung school year, but I'm glad that we were able to do this before their school year really started, and mahirapan na tayo na makuha yung sked nila for something like this. We'd love to have you back. Like after you do your reading romance course, tell us all about it.
Yes. Yes,
And then
so excited.
hopefully when you're promoting your faculty romance anthology, we'll do that. And okay, so we can have the chat up for a few more minutes, but that's it. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Is there
Thank
anything
you
else
so
you want to say?
much.
Anything else you wanna add to the people listening, to the people in the chat? May huling bilin ba yung mga teacher? Submit.
Pass your papers.
Pass your
Romance
papers.
anthology.
Pass your papers.
Pass your papers, no cheating.
So I'll link to their books. Here in the description and also on Twitter. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.